Well, listen, brother, let me ask you this. In all your years of working in education, along with your years with working with various fathers around the country, what would you say is something that is a reoccurring theme in our community in particular that you care to bring some insight out, a flaw, something that seems to be a hindrance to us as fathers? What would be that reoccurring thing? Is it the court system? Is it um, the family court system? And if it is, you know, just could you offer any? Where am I getting at here? Is it possible you can offer any like advice for fathers who may be experiencing any difficulties in a breakup or anything like that?
Hmm. No doubt about it. So the number one, pardon me, number one thing I would say, I feel like for us, oftentimes we suffer due to a lack of information. And that is part of why I love the group and also why I created it, so that we can be resources to each other, because there are people out there who have gone through situations, and there are other people who are starting to go through it, and they can glean from those veterans who have that knowledge. And early on in the group, that showed it really manifested when we had a brother who was going to court. This was the first case I saw where he was going to court for custody, and he ended up getting, I want to say, joint, if not full, it was joint custody of his son. So then he came back, and from there, that really, within the group itself, that really set the precedent to say, look, number one, this can be done. So that's the first thing. You have to believe it can be done. And when you see an example, then you realize within yourself, because a lot of us are out there and we don't believe it because we've never seen it. And we hear all of this stuff, oh, the courts are against us, the courts are against us. And that's true. I don't deny it. I've
Yep.
seen and heard about that in many cases. I've lived through it in some, to some degree. So I understand how it is. But the thing is, what I always tell people is that you can't, if you go into a boxing ring, you know what that boxer is trying to do to you. You know what your opponent is trying to do to you. And the question is, do you go in there ill prepared? Do you go in there with your hands down? Or do you
Right.
study this guy? Do you know what he's going to do? Do you come in there with a battle plan so you can defeat this guy? And a lot of times we don't have that plan when we go into the court. And we just feel like, oh, it should be this way because this is the right thing. But
Yep.
they don't care about the right thing. Honestly, they can say in the best interest of the child all they want, but that is not the truth. We've seen that time and time again, that a lot of judges make decisions that aren't really in the best interest of the child. So we have to get that. We have to have that confidence that we can do it, and we have to have the information to know how to do it, how to prepare. What do we need to know? What is the law here? What am I trying to work with? What forces are working against me? How do I need to dress? How do I need to talk? It's almost like, you got to kind of play the game, right? Because if you
Exactly.
go in there a certain way, you're bound to lose. So it's like a game to them, because from what I have heard and somewhat experienced too, I went through a divorce and all of that sort of stuff. So I've seen some of it too. A lot of these judges don't, they just trying to get through, right? Get through.
Right.
Oh, I see this, boom, boom, boom. We're gonna do this, bam, you paying this much, get out my court, get out my face, so on and so forth. And the thing about it too that adds to it is us being black men, right?
Right.
So you got racist judges you dealing with, sexist judges and women sometimes, and
Yep.
all of that sort of stuff. So the deck, to a large extent, is stacked against us. So we have to get that information. So whether it's going to court, whether it's dealing with child support, whether it's dealing with the police come to your house for this and that, she said this, she claimed you did that. The information is the key, and the experience to know that, okay, I can do, I don't have to get in my feelings, I don't have to get frustrated. And the worst thing you can do is really exhibit that kind of frustration to give her a reason, you know what I mean? And again, give the police a reason, like, oh yeah, this guy, he's just this, he's a hothead, he's all this. So we
Yep.
gotta really work at the same time to keep all of that in mind, maintain our cool, as best we can, and document everything.
Yep.
Document it all, because that is a saving grace. And I'm telling people, save all your receipts, save text messages. If she wilding out on you on the phone, don't return that fire. Just
Yep.
take a screenshot. and
That's
take it into
real
court
talk.
with you. You know, all of that kind of stuff is really what we need to know. So those are the recurring things. A lot of times we just get in our emotion as much as we say, oh, we're logical and women are emotional. Nah, we get really emotional as men.
True.
We definitely do, especially when it comes to our kids. And we feel like we're doing the right thing. We feel like we're being wronged. It's easy to let your emotions get the best of you. I know that for a fact, right?
Right.
So I know it's not easy. It's easier said than done, but that's the thing that it really takes to get through that. And then the other thing outside of that is really the support that we get from one another. So when you feel like you're going through it alone, it's a whole different world. I just talked to somebody yesterday about something else, not about fatherhood or anything, but it just makes a difference when you can kind of like commiserate and like it's a challenge, but it's not just on me. God ain't just picking on me. This is something that just
Right.
happens to people, and this is what I
Yep.
got to deal with. So I have to figure out the best way to work around it and handle it. Because ultimately, what you got to keep in mind is that no matter what anybody else does, no matter what the judge does, no matter what your baby mother does, none of that stuff, you still have to maintain. You still have to be an example for your kids and show them how they're supposed to handle stuff with grace. So that's the main thing you really got to keep in mind.
Yes, and that's powerful, brother. That's powerful advice.